Hello, friends. Well, Bhakti. This is a super exciting one, I think, for both of us to do. I, I think we first heard about Bhakti from what was the book? The Autobiography of a Yogi.
Yeah, from Yogananda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that one yogi.
I wish I could remember his name. Yeah, but Yogananda was friends with him, and he always talked about Divine Mother and about her love and her generosity. He was always reminding Yogananda, no, it's not you that's responsible. It is Divine Mother coming through you and blessing you and kind of filling you up and allowing you to be this beautiful force in the world.
And I feel like at its heart, that's what Divine Mother is about, is her trying to use us as this channel for Bhakti. And bhakti is something that word, I think it officially means devotion, is usually the translation, but we translate it a little differently. That's
Kind of love, I think, but not love in the sense of a relationship between a man and a woman. Uh, I kind of sometimes think of bhakti as what I feel when I experience a sense of awe and connection when I'm in nature. So if you've ever had a moment where you've seen a beautiful sunrise or you've had a bird land right by you, there's this feeling of love and connection and a magicalness. And so to me, that's a little bit what I think of when I think of bhakti.
yeah. The problem with our human conception of love is that I feel like it's often possessive.
Mm.
And so, you think of your my wife and
Oh, yeah, my children.
yeah, and it's not just that word, but I also sort of control your sexuality. I want to control your thoughts. I want to control so much about you in that context of what often we think of as love, instead of this idea of this open love where I just love you as you are, however you manifest. And that's difficult for humans because so much of what we do comes with expectations,
Yeah.
and is weighted with debt and all these other emotions and feelings.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that sense of wonder of that bird landing right in front of me, that connection with something. And it makes me think that bhakti, or the love from Divine Mother, has a curiosity in it, an openness. So in my relationship with Divine Mother or with her creation or that moment in nature, there's this kind of open uh, questing or exploration that I feel as though in our human concept of love, we box someone, we say, I know who you are, or you're not acting like yourself anymore. And we don't enter into that state of wonder, of curiosity about another person. You said we kind of want to control people, and control, a lot of times, I feel like, comes from thinking we know what something is. And I feel as though the bhakti love with Divine Mother is kind of a wondering of what magical things will happen next, of what lessons can be learned, of something more than just what I think is. And life is not just the way I think it is, but something a little bit more magical.
Yeah, this is so different from. So we have our human versions of love, which often have many of these elements we're talking about. And I refer to those negative elements. But often, even when we conceive of divine love, many of us may have come from religions where the divine loves us, but it's very conditional love based on.
There are expectations.
Yeah, there's a lot of expectations. So it mimics, and this is often what we do with divinity, the idea of divinity. We turn divinity into a human, especially in the human limitation sense. And then, because it's just hard for us to imagine something like, could Divine Mother just love us
Yeah.
No matter what, whether we hate her or we don't believe in her or we do believe in her,
Mm-hmm.
whether we're a good person or a bad person. And then that comes up sometimes against our sense of justice
Mm.
because, well, if a person is just evil and horrible, you're saying Divine Mother loves them as much as they love me, and I'm a good person. I go out of
Yeah.
my way to help others. And
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of judgment in that, and I think it's very difficult for us to separate love from judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but something I think of often is that, first of all, I know that I am not a perfect person, and I know that I have done things that I regret, things that I would like to change, and I sometimes I've done those things, and they've been hard for me to forgive myself. But it helps me when I think, hey, I didn't necessarily know, I didn't have the skills in place. And again, I don't want to put that in the realm of, well, we can just excuse things because you were abused when you were a child, so this and that. But there is really something about being able to be given skills that help us. And I can sometimes forgive myself more easily if I say, I didn't know back then what I know now. I didn't go, through some of the experiences I've been through that now I would react differently. And so
Mm.
there's this kind of way that you have to give people the benefit of the doubt and believe they can change, believe you are capable of change. And if you are capable of doing bad things and you are capable of doing good things, so is probably most of the rest of the world, given the ability to learn the skills and learn the perception and the mindset that help us to be more open, more compassionate, more curious, more understanding, and less judgmental. So that's one place where, when I'm trying to find forgiveness or find love for myself, that's especially where it's hard, but for others, I try to think of that, of we're all learning and we're all growing.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm glad you talked about ourselves because a lot of us, we may be have perfectionist tendencies or, really just be people that are trying to be our best selves. And so then often we can hold ourselves to impossible standards and we can think of ourselves as unworthy of love. And this, ever since we started saying, Divine Mother, work through us, kind of just to manifest your beingness through our words and our bodies, it's it's felt easier for me to come into a love place because it's hard to do on my own. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to do as just a human because it's so easy to lapse into judgment. And we're parents with kids. Oh my gosh, it can be so tough because I can think, yes, I love my children unconditionally, but so often my day-to-day experience with
Yeah.
them is colored by things like judgments and expectations
Oh,
that I
yes.
have of them. And that that removes me from that feeling of bhakti, of unconditional love. But again, really difficult for me to do just with my willpower. And so I have much better luck when I can feel Divine Mother working through me and kind of say, take me over. Because love, I'm going to say, is effortless.
Mm.
It's our resistances, it's our desire
Yeah.
to change and mold and control
Yeah.
everything around us that makes love, that kind of love,
Yeah.
difficult. But when we feel that, you talked about that sense of wonder,
Yeah.
that that's just it's a huge feeling of everything gone. You just love your
Yeah.
child, no matter what they're saying to you, no matter how they're acting. We feel that with each other sometimes when I'm in a rough place and not being my best self, and you might look at me and just love me so purely, no matter how I'm manifesting. And that feels probably amazing for you, and it feels amazing for me.
It feels challenging for me.
Does
Not
it?
that you're a challenging person, but what I mean is that I struggle with not taking on other people's emotions and feeling responsible for them. So it feels amazing when I can do it from that place of not judging myself, of not judging you, of not putting my own value on you. And I want to go so far as to say that when we experience a bhakti type of love, when we experience Divine Mother's love, or when we ourselves enter that state that is very difficult to put words on, but I think of as kind of true love, there is no greater freedom, because all fear leaves us. Mm-hmm. And love becomes the defining everything from which we can flow from. And that's not an easy state to always get into. I do have an analogy, and it's one that is useful on a couple different levels. And I am thinking about, for most of us, there's an idea that we want to be our best selves. And that is why we are communicating about these things, why we are seeking outside help from a divine source, or why we get into philosophy or things like that, because I think we have a desire to manifest the best that we can in this lifetime that we're given. And so probably a lot of us, if we found a wild, injured animal outside, let's say a bird that was injured by flying into our window or something, we most likely are going to try our best to return that beautiful little animal to its home so that it can continue to live its life. And if we have to care for that animal and that animal attacks us, or is right, or is requiring time from us because we need to feed it or whatever, then there's this certain sense of that animal can kind of do whatever it needs to do. It's being naturally itself. It's responding to being afraid or being hurt, not knowing what's happening. And our sense, at least I imagine my sense in something like that, is to say, hey, little creature, I just want to help you. I understand you don't know what's going on. I don't hold it against you if you bite me, and we do have a certain devotion of, I want to care for you, I want to heal you, I want to return you to the best state that I can give you. And I think sometimes that can be a useful analogy for what maybe Divine Mother feels for us. Okay, that's where she can love us even if we are not our best selves, because we are like that little injured animal, sometimes thrust into situations that we've never been in before, or we don't have the skills to deal with. And also just that sense, if we want to try to love other people really openly, can we love them the way that we would care for an injured wild animal? It's just helpful for me to feel a more open, less controlling, more curious and willing kind of love or dynamic.
Yeah. This love that we start to feel coming through us from Divine Mother is liberating, because it pulls us out of so much of the mind state that we're often in, the fear, the control that can guide our lives. And so she's asking us in a way to experiment and play with surrender and letting go into what we might call the Tao, or the way of life and being. Right, we've been sick a little bit, so that's the con. And if you
we don't have our voices yet. They're like trying not to laugh.
And if you hear the big woof outside, it's super windy today. So that's
very cold.
Very cold outside. So
I love the concept of surrender, because surrender says, I don't know everything. And that means when we don't know everything, we have to look around and observe and say, what do I see that can give me clues? And if we have Divine Mother as a part of our experience, we can then ask for grace to come into us and to give us answers that we maybe could never see if we are very compartmentalized, where we think we do know. I do know what's best. You need to be doing this and I need to be doing that.
Yeah.
Then the surrender is gone, and more information can't flow into us necessarily. So surrender's a really good part of love.
And it probably feels strange for us often to hear this because surrender seems like weakness in a culture where we are taught that control is so important. And there's other wisdom cultures, some non-divinity based wisdom cultures. If you think of Zen or Taoism, where the idea of letting go into the world is very, very important. And they recognize that this magic happens when we let go into the world. We might call it flow state. We might call it a deep serenity and peace that overcomes us when we're not trying to control things anymore. But when we add in divinity, when we add in Divine Mother, then we we open up for the universe to give that a loving personality that we can recognize behind that. So for me, exploring Zen for a long time was awesome, but it's hard for me to feel like I'm having a relationship with the Tao or with the essence of whatever it is. When that embodies as Divine Mother, then I can do some things that are easier for me as a human being. I can start talking to Divine Mother. I can start praying or asking for guidance. And when we do that, it's it's easier for me, at least, to conceive of surrender if instead of just saying, I'm just going to surrender to whatever comes, if I can say to you, here's this problem I'm facing. I really don't know what to do. Can you give me some good advice and maybe just guide me? Because I'm in the dark. Then I can hear what you say and I can maybe just follow your lead and let go into that. That's more what it feels like to me when we release into Divine Mother. And when we do this, then we open the door to that surrender, which is secretly opening the door to Bhakti, to love. Because we're removing ourselves from control, which is removing ourselves from a fear-based and resistance-based approach to life.
There's a meditation that I like to do.
Ooh, I like that.
That I feel like helps me get into a space where I can connect more with that kind of energy, especially because the meditation asks me to do something that I don't think is just natural to do. But I think that practicing it makes it become easier. And for me, it's just a practice of loving kindness. And I can explain it kind of briefly. But this is a really useful exercise if you're wanting to cultivate a more open hearted and curious and surrender based kind of love. And I just think I've seen amazing things happen. And that's not why I do it, but it seems to have natural, unexplained consequences.
Magical effects.
Yeah. So I often, you get into a comfortable position, as you would when you want to meditate. I like to just lay down prone where I can be very comfortable. And then I start by giving myself love. That's really important. And that's a very challenging one for me, actually. So I start with something that's hard, but I just feel gratitude for myself that I'm doing this. And I see myself as a loving person. I picture myself as filled with love. Sometimes I imagine that I have a golden light or a green light or a pink light just filling me and surrounding me, and that I am a really loving being. And I know that I'm trying my best in this world to do the things that I believe are the best for everyone. And so I have gratitude to myself for that. And then I pick some people that I love very easily, that are easy for me to love, my children, my, bestie here, some of my friends. And I picture them being surrounded by that light, or that light flooding out of me and engulfing them, or them just coming to me and just having this beautiful smile and like, oh, this wonderful thing happened to me and I feel so great and I feel so wonderful, and I picture that love. And then I reach out and I pick maybe a few neighbors or a few people I know but not as well, or maybe some relatives that I haven't seen for a while. And I just send them some love too. And again, this can be as long or short as you feel like. And then I take it to a person that I struggle with. I could, when I feel really good, I take it to someone I actively dislike, or there's not a lot of people I really actively dislike. So, but someone that maybe I think, I don't understand. How can they live that way, or how can they think that way? And it could be a person I know, that's very powerful. It also could just be an entity out in the world. Maybe there's, a politician you absolutely despise. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to try not to go in that state, and I'm going to send them love. And so you send that person love. And this is challenging for me because I don't always feel the love feeling. And so my solution is just to imagine them, visualize them getting everything in their life that could fill them up, that could make them the best person they could be. And I don't have to decide what that is. I just kind of have this feeling. I try to send that light out to them, and I try to picture them just really feeling loved in their life, so much that they can start to make just really good decisions and just really feel like they want to be their best self. And so I spend some time doing that. And you can do it out as far as you want with as many people as you want, but I have definitely seen things completely transform that I cannot explain. People who were making decisions that were directly opposite of what I felt made sense, and I practiced loving kindness meditation, and boom, they turn around and suddenly they think the same way that I do. Again, that doesn't always happen, but more times than not, I find strange shifts happening. And I think that's a great way to start just practicing the loving feeling. If you have an attitude of gratitude, then you start to notice things more that you're grateful for. You start to notice the blessings. If you have an attitude of love, you start to be able to access that feeling more often.
It's almost really magical is the word I used
It's
before.
pretty
And you've told me
impressive.
about some things that it's
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah.
it's really neat to see it. And I think so much of our world is based on what we look for and then what we think about what we see. And I'm sure that you've all experienced at one point or another in your life something new coming into your existence. Maybe you're looking for a new vehicle and you're thinking about getting, an electric car. And all of a sudden, you begin to notice electric cars everywhere. Now, are there more electric cars? Or are you just noticing it more? And we can get that way with the opposite too. We can say, oh, this world is just full of not nice people and not nice things. And then we can start to pay attention to that in the media and other things. And in that way, we begin to craft what comes into our existence. And so when we are focused on our relationship with Divine Mother, when we're doing some loving kindness meditation, when we're being forgiving of ourselves and others, when we're surrendering and we practice that, just imagine what that's drawing in to our life. Yeah, just a little water would be great. Thank you.
The the ultimate secret that unfolds in front of us is that Divine Mother is becoming us. And she's incarnating as you and me and you. And in doing so, she gets that experience of being human. And she wants to honor she's hiding in us, and we think of ourselves as me and you and you.
And you and you.
She wants to honor our ability to be ourselves. So she's not setting up some kind of reward punishment system or secret thing behind the scenes to get you. She's allowing us to create and craft the world that we experience in many ways through our perceptions and our ideas about the world. Because we all know two people can have an identical experience,
Mm-hmm.
It can be horrible for one person and amazing for another person, or very life growing and affirming for one person and very frightening for another. And what she also puts in front of us is that if we start to slip out of our ego selves, if we start to realize who we are, as that process happens, she's very happy to work through us, to allow us, me, for instance, to be a little less Ketan and a little more Divine Mother. Mm-hmm. And as that happens, then these things become easier and easier that we're talking about. Something like that meditation you're talking about is so useful because it allows my Ketan self, my ego, to be involved in this process. To say, okay, I'm going to do something that's really challenging for me because, whoever the crafter of McDonald's, that's really hard for me to love that person because I don't feel like they're adding anything positive to the world. But that's me coming from a place of judgment. I'm not seeing the whole picture. And so at the same time, I can work for things that I feel are important, but I don't have to hate them. I don't have to judge them. I can try to change things, but I can do that out of a sense of love. Mm-hmm. And the more I release my Ketan self, the more I allow Divine Mother into my life to work through me, to become me, the easier I find it to love. But an exercise like that is so important because it allows us to participate in that. It allows Ketan to participate in that. Otherwise, I can sometimes feel like I'm just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And yes, I'm trying to open myself to grace and divinity, but I'm often doing that from a place of judgment and expectation. Like, okay, so I'm sitting here waiting, make things happen, which you can maybe see as secretly still me engaging in kind of resistance and control and wanting things to be a certain way. So, yeah, love is the answer.
Yeah.
Because as we fall into love with the world, mm-hmm. if we can see the world as Divine Mother, so we fall in love with Divine Mother and we fall in love with the world as she's manifesting, the sunny, bright, wonderful day and the cloudy, drizzly day equally. As we fall in love with the world, we feel a little less of ourselves because that true bhakti, that unconditional love, we step outside of ourselves when we love that way. Mm-hmm. Because it's not me going, okay, Rebecca, I love you if you do this and this and this and this, which is very much me being rooted in Kentanness.
Yeah.
When I love you, it becomes selfless. Mm. And then I can start that process of stepping outside of myself and starting to discover who I really am. And this usually happens kind of incrementally for us along this journey.
There's so much to it.
There is. But just using that word bhakti, I think, mm-hmm. adopting that, thinking that there is a thing called unconditional love, imagining that you're being loved that way right now by Divine Mother, and that you are capable of falling into love with the world like that. Just acknowledging that can start us on that journey. And that's all we have to do is start there. Mm-hmm. If we take tiny little steps in the direction of bhakti, then our life starts to change right away. I mean, it feels graphically different. If you even do one 10-minute meditation like you're talking, you're probably going to feel so different about the world in general. You'll also notice where it's challenging, right?
Yeah, when you hit those challenges, I think that we all encounter something in our life, times in our lives where it's unsolvable. There is no resolution from our limited human perspective. And we can experience micro bits of that too, of just on a daily basis, oh, how's this going to work? Or, oh, I can't communicate this with my child. Why? And multiple little ones too. And I think those little steps, when you encounter just one of those little ones and you don't know what to do, or you feel ready to just go into that human ego mode, just take a moment and realize, and this goes for the big ones too that seem totally like the world is falling apart and there's no answer. Try to go into that place of just feeling love. If it's you and your child and you're like, oh, I'm coming back to this again and again, and you're like, oh, instead of trying to think logically as we are wont to do, for a moment, just stop. Give yourself love. Send love to your child. Even if nothing becomes clear to you and you still go down the same path, the more you practice that, the more little things will change. And maybe you send your child love and you send yourself love and you go, oh, you know what? I've just been taking too much on at work. And my child has a point. I'm not around for them in the same way. And then how does that other person feel? And sometimes when I can't understand what other people are doing, I ask myself, have I done things that I don't like? And how did I ever get there? So is it possible that this person has things that have happened to them that have led them to that? And can I just acknowledge at least that we're both human and we both, everybody makes mistakes. And I've gotten into some situations where I wish I had a little bubble that could explain to people, hey, please don't judge me right now. This, and this happened and this isn't what it looks like. And, that is true for everybody. So I think those little steps of stopping and just sending yourself love, sending another person love, or this situation, say, okay, I'm just going to send love to this situation, and I'm going to call in Divine Mother, and I'm going to say, Divine Mother, you've got the answers. Please just help me to hear them. Please just help me to see. And the other really important thing to remember is that we are capable of changing what we believe. Super, super, totally possible. And so be aware that when you invite love in and when you practice love and you practice surrender and forgiveness, realize you can pray, Divine Mother, help me change my viewpoint, or help me see this more clearly. Help me see what I'm missing. Help me feel that love, and know that you don't have to hold your viewpoints that way for the rest of your life. You can change what you think. And a lot of times that's the actual answer to an unsolvable problem, is simply changing what you believe about it.
Wow.
I guess we could talk about this for a long time.
We'll come back to this, I'm sure, in future messages.
Yeah, there's so many different parts to it.
Oh.
But this is a good place to start. It's just try that loving kindness meditation. Take a little time to think about what you think love is. And if there's a broader viewpoint, imagine if there was somebody that you could go to with anything and they wouldn't judge you and they would be there for you and they would help you with wisdom of insights, that things you couldn't see, and they would be there to say, hey, you're going to make it through. That's Divine Mother. No, she is not here to keep a checklist of us doing things right or wrong. She is here simply to help us experience that sense of connectedness, that sense of love, and that sense of freedom from fear, so that we can just go about trying to be the brightest lights that we can.
So try this. Picture Divine Mother in whatever form you want. She doesn't mind whatever form you want to put her into. And just love her. Sit for a moment, love her, feel her love coming to you. Then recognize that she is becoming the world. She's crafting it out of love. It's a completely non-judgmental love, which is hard for us to realize as humans. She's in some incarnations that seem to be, they're suffering, and it seems really tough when we look at that. And she is going through that, but she is experiencing that in a very pure way, even if when I'm suffering, I may resist it. But fall into love as much as you can, because the coolest thing is that she gets really excited when one of her incarnations starts falling in love with the world. And she'll start kind of trying to push that love into you a little bit more. And it becomes easier and easier as you do it, because I really feel like she gets hyped up and excited about it when we start to fall in love with the world. It will be challenging, as Rebecca has said, but baby step into it. Try it out. Play with that meditation. Look around you. Look at a tree. Look at a cloud. Look at a person. Look at a dog and say, there's Divine Mother becoming that thing. And then just try to feel that love that you have been cultivating in that meditation for that cloud, that person, that dog. The more you do this, the more it starts to shift over inside of you. And that's when it gets really fun. So if you're not watching this on divinemother.love, welcome to come to our website, Sanctuary of Divine Mother. And there are inspirations there and more messages. And we're going to be building a community there. Come check that out, join it, and we would love to connect with you.
Until then, much love to you.